Hey, g'day guys, it's Adam from Video Show Me How, and in this video we're going to get stuck into how to replace your Jeep Wrangler CRD diesel fuel filter. Let's get started. Shout out to all the subscribers of the channel. I hope you're having a tip-top day. If you're new here and you'd like to help support the channel and the growth of the channel, feel free to hit the old subscribe button in the corner. That really helps grow the channel and for me to keep bringing out content for all of you guys. Now, it's really important to regularly change your filter, particularly in common rail diesel engines. The injectors for these run at very tight tolerances, so the last thing you want is any gunk getting through or a failed filter. That's going to cause major issues and potentially major failure of your injectors. They are thousands of dollars to replace. This will get anywhere from $50 to $100, so it's really important that you regularly change it. I change mine every 5 to 7,500 kilometers. It really is cheap insurance and very much worth doing. So what are fuel filters? On the turbo diesel Wranglers, they are very similar to what you'll find in most Euros. Some of these come a little bit different, but effectively for most Euros they're going to be similar in this filter style. And what effectively it is you'll have a paper element inside there, which is hard to see. On the bottom here is a little water separator unit, and what happens is fuel goes in here, cleans any contaminants. The idea is that if any water hits the paper element as well, obviously water, diesels, no dice, no good. It will form droplets, and the larger the droplets, gravity will then push this down to the bottom on the bottom here, which is your water separator. And they recommend you should check this sort of at every service or earlier, every sort of couple of thousand Ks. That's about all there is to the filter. We've got a couple of seals and grommets at the top here, same on the bottom, but they're a simple unit and reasonably easy to replace. So let's get stuck into how to do that now. So on the Jeep Wranglers, it is under your driver's seat. So it's a matter of just coming underneath the chassis rail. If you go just behind the lower control bracket, you're going to find a little bash plate behind your cross member, which is this guy here, and then a little bash plate like this one here, and that is the fuel filter's own little bash plate, and it lives under that. Alrighty, step one is to grab yourself an 18mm socket. You need to remove this guy, and this guy. Before you do, make sure you get your favorite lubricant penetrant of choice and give them a solid once over, because if you're anything like me and you're going to the beach regularly, these guys might be a little bit tight, particularly if you haven't done this for a little while. If they get stuck, you need to resort to a Braggy bar. Alright, so at this point you can get away with just removing these two and then loosening the crossmember bolt right off. I find removing the whole bash plate just makes things so much easier. There's a little nut in the top here that we'll go through in a minute, and that's really tricky to get to, so the more space you can create, the better. And if you do go with that method, you are going to need to support the cross member. That's where all the weight of your gearbox, etc. is hanging off, so I'd get yourself a jack, wheel the sucker over, pop him underneath just to give you the extra support. Once you've got the cross brace supported, you can now remove this bolt altogether. From here, a bit of wiggling to get it out from the cross member, and it should pop down just like that. Don't really wrench on it. There are the fuel lines at the top here, so you don't really want to be pulling too hard. You just want it to be loose like this so that you can get to this bolt here on the other side, because that's what's holding, I guess, sandwiching the filter into this little housing. Now it's probably going to be easier to see from this side. There's one there, and you can see the other guy just up in here. So you might be lucky, you may not need to fully remove this. It's just a matter of loosening these off enough, and this will slide out, because effectively these two sandwich the actual filter in place. So you just got to loosen them off just enough, and you should be able to drop this whole section off. And there we go. We can remove the housing all in one piece. This is how you drain the filter as well while we're here. So you want to get some sort of a container down the bottom, but effectively all you do is you would have this upright, obviously, you would twist this guy, and a little bit, any water that collects would drop out, and you want to twist it until straight diesel comes out, as you can see there. And that's how you would drain any water that has been caught in your water separator. Alright, so from here you will have your fuel rails on the back. You don't need to remove that. This is the actual housing up the top here. Now, in some of the earlier JKs, these had the propensity to crack, and the reason for that is there's a heating element in here, as well as the back sensor, which senses your fuel temperature. You can actually just fully tape this guy off, and you can actually just bag the sensor off just like this. I've just taped it up and left it there in case I want to connect in the future. And the same thing over there, some electrical tape, and really tape that off to the connector itself. You do need to make sure you have the fuel temperature setting though. You need to make sure that that sender is still functioning. It's just a clip and a pull apart like that, and we're good to go. Now, all that being said, if you live in a climate that does get proper cold, as in 0 degrees type cold, I would recommend you leave the heating element connected, because you're going to need it. Where I live though at the moment, cold for me is anything sort of 10 degrees or less, so, and that probably happens, you know, 2-3 maybe days per year, so it's not really a thing for me. So I've got that disconnected, just so one, I don't get the water and fuel splashing sensor going off, and also I don't want to risk cracking my housing, which some of the early models had issues with. Alright, so beyond here you are ready to go. Make sure you get your bucket underneath, because you're going to spill some fuel here. It should only be hand tight, because you don't want to be damaging the housing itself. So have a red hot go. Good news. And then it's just draining it out, swiveling it out slowly. So here's our old filter. As you can see, the outside cops a bit of a hiding just because of where it is. And you can see here, even though around the outside here, we're getting a little bit of corrosion. The inside, on the inside of this grommet and the seal, it's nice and clean, which is exactly what we want to see, because obviously we don't want any of this crud getting into our fuel. Now, there will be another video up the top here. There will be a link there as soon as it's live. We're actually going to run through what it looks like inside. We're going to cut this open and have a good look around. Alright, from here you're ready to install your brand new filter. Recommend giving it a dip in the diesel that has come out of here, the nice clean stuff, just to give a little bit of lube to the gaskets themselves. Then it's a matter of just screwing it back onto the housing itself. There we go. Now, it's important that you don't use an oil filter ratchet strappy thing, those things that the oil wrenches. You don't want to use that. You basically just want to hand tighten this, not go overboard, but it needs to obviously be tight, so just snug it down by hand. Alright, once it's all on there, give it a bit of a clean up and it's reinstall time. From here you need to reinstall your sensors. So we have the one here for the diesel fuel temperature, and the other one is your heater element. So install them both, or if you don't have the heater element installed, then obviously you're good to go with that one. Just make sure it is waterproof over the top of the connector itself. The next step is to get the bash plate and reinstall. So give it a bit of a clean up, get all the gunk and what have you off it, and then from there it's just a matter of sliding the new filter back into place like so, and then torquing back down on the bolt that clamps it into place. Easiest way to test is just up underneath here. You want to have a good bit of space for the water separator, and you can just try and really push up on there to see if it's tight enough. Once it is, it's not going to be going anywhere and you're good to go. Once you've got the housing back in place, it's a matter of then just lining everything back up. Make sure you be careful of the fuel lines at the back here, because they will try and get themselves hung up on the exhaust hanger. So just navigate your array around those and line everything back up so you can re-bolt everything. Once you're all lined up, just restart the bolts so that they're ready to be torqued. Now, before you go any further in torquing anything down, I'd recommend priming the fuel pump and making sure that you're not getting any leaks. That way, rather than torquing all of this down and finding you haven't quite put enough torque on the filter itself, you don't have to undo everything like crazy again. Right, so the JK's self-prime, so all you need to be doing is inserting the key and letting it prime. You'll hear the sender pump at the back in the fuel tank pumping away. You may get a check engine light that we can clear later. The main reason for that is because it's not sensing any diesel in the housing as yet, but that's okay. You can get around that by filling the filter with diesel. I've never really done that. It's nice and easy if you just let the pump do all the job for you and let it bleed the system. So give this a good sort of minute sitting there, and that will fill the filter up for you, etc. While that's running, check underneath to make sure you don't have any leaks in the new filter that you've installed. Once you've confirmed everything is dry underneath, you want to take the keys out of the ignition, give it 5 seconds or so, and repeat the process. Just pop it over to accessory so it primes the pump there again. Give that another 30 seconds and you'll hear the pump turn off. Then keys out of ignition once again, and third time we'll attempt to start. And it should start without a hitch. Now you'll notice that the check engine light comes off for you, so there's no mucking around there. We've got our sway bar playing up. We'll have to fix that in another video. But beyond that, you should be running fine. Do a final check underneath just to make sure that there is no leakage and you are good to go from that point of view. Once you confirmed everything's okay, engine back off before anything gets too hot under there. And then from there, it really is a matter of now just tightening up all of these bolts that you had undone back to spec. Once everything's all nice and tight under there, give everything a once over with a rag just to clean everything up. Remove your jack and you are done. So there you have it, team, your step-by-step guide on how to replace your manky old diesel fuel filter on your Jeep Wrangler CRD across to a brand new one. As always, guys, I hope you found the video helpful, and if you did, feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Give the video a big thumbs up, hit the old like button, and of course, subscribe to the channel to help support if you haven't already. That way you can see all the new videos as they come out. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next one. See you guys.